This is Monkey World in Dorset, the largest ape and monkey rescue centre on the planet. Today on Monkey Life. In Paddy's chimp group, there's the patter of tiny chimp feet. It's a free-for-all amongst the bachelor boys as they fail, once again, to learn to share. And in Vietnam, the team begin work at their new gibbon rescue centre. Primates have already started to arrive for rehabilitation back into the wild.
So at the moment we know about 20 different foods that they eat in the forest, so we can slowly get better and better and better. So when they do go back into the forest, they're going to survive.
Monkey World is primarily a rescue centre, so it doesn't usually let its chimpanzees breed. But as babies bring family groups closer together, they do occasionally allow it. It's always exciting when there's news of a pregnancy. And 8.5 months later, there's even better news. Chimpanzee Susie has given birth in Paddy's group.
Came in first thing this morning, and when we arrived, we found Susie had given birth overnight, probably very soon just before we arrived. Luckily, everything seems to have gone very well. She's looking after the baby, she's holding the baby. We've actually seen it suckle now, so things are looking very positive for everything to go well.
6 years ago, Susie gave birth to her daughter, Eddie. So far, Eddie is the only chimp at the park to be successfully reared in a family group. Everybody hopes that the chimps will look after this new arrival just as well.
Well, because Susie had given birth before and looked after Eddie so well, we were quite hopeful that this would be the case again. She actually gave birth overnight, so that meant she was with the group when it happened. So obviously everything had gone well. The whole group were behaving really well towards Susie and the baby, so there was no need to separate them off. And hopefully, you know, that means she would become a member of the group quicker.
Top priority for the baby is getting fed, and Susie has settled into breastfeeding perfectly. But the nest that she has built is hiding the answer to that all-important question.
We're not too sure of the sex of the baby yet. We've had a couple of glimpses. We think it might be a boy, but it's a bit too early to tell. We'll have to wait until Susie's a bit happier for us to have a better look.
Dad, Paddy, has shown an interest in the new baby, and now he's giving Susie some space by keeping the rest of his troop out of her way. And the staff are on hand to give the new mum some TLC, not forgetting a little bit for Susie's first child, Eddie, just to make sure she doesn't get jealous of her new brother or sister.
We're just in the tunnel between the pavilions, inside and outside enclosures. Just been giving Susie and Eddie a bit of a drink. Susie's pretty tired, she keeps nodding off. She's also quite thirsty, so we're giving her lots of juice drinks just to try and keep her happy. We've also turned the heating up a bit. She was shivering a bit just after she gave birth. So basically we're just keeping her happy and calm, making sure Eddie's contented by giving her the occasional banana, so she doesn't get pestered too much. But other than that, I think she's doing really well.
With all the support in place that Susie and her baby need, it's fingers crossed that the latest addition to Paddy's group will flourish. Monkey World has rescued primates from all corners of the globe and brought them back to the park here in Dorset. But their latest project means that many rescued primates can remain in their native country. "6,000 miles away in southern Vietnam. Construction is underway on Monkey World's exciting new project, an ape rescue centre specifically for gibbons. It'll be based in 56 hectares of jungle on an island at the entrance of Cat Tien National Park. The pressure's on to complete the centre because new residents have already arrived. 4 golden-cheeked gibbons are in holding cages. For these endangered primates to have a hope of returning to the wild, they'll need to be rehabilitated. And this means learning how to behave like wild gibbons. This is the job of Monkey World's gibbon expert, Marina.
These gibbons were pets in Bin Hoa City, which is very close to Saigon. We think this is the mother and father. and they've been pets for over 15 years, so a long time. And I think they're a breeding pair, and they've had youngsters, and as far as we're aware, this female and the little one, who's only around 2, they're the offspring of this pair.
Full health checks were done on the gibbons, and DNA samples show that they were stolen from this region. This makes them perfect candidates for rehabilitation and eventual re-release back into the jungle here. Step 1 is to get these domesticated primates used to eating the sort of food they would find in the wild.
This is a leaf that I know they eat in the forest. This forest is actually dominated by this tree, and they eat the leaf, the fruit, the flower. So and he's eating it. God, good on you. And the other thing is jackfruit. This is actually domesticated jackfruit, but this is also found in the forest. So if they can start to eat this, there's a chance that they might make it back into the forest one day. So over the months, we'll slowly introduce more and more forest fruits, so we can slowly get better and better and better. So when they do go back into the forest, they're going to survive.
The next step will be to move these gibbons into a semi-wild environment.
And that's where the serious rehabilitation comes alive, where they're going to learn how to move in trees, and they're going to get lots of forest foods. But more importantly, the human contact is going to be reduced. We have to back off fully. He can't wander in the forest and see a human and want to go and ask for food. So it's very, very important at that stage that we back off and they become wild gibbons who don't see a human and think food or think attention or think anything. They see a human and ignore them.
Numbers of golden-cheeked gibbons in the wild are at an all-time low. Poverty in rural areas has led to endangered wildlife being illegally caught and sold. And on the black market, these animals are worth thousands of pounds. Without help, rare species, such as the golden-cheeked gibbon, face extinction. Later, the team continues its mission to find more gibbons to join the new rescue centre.
Would he be happy to consider her future if she were able to go back to the forest? Would he consider that for her?
And at Monkey World, young orangutans, Kai and Gordon, rough and tumble. But it's all part of growing up. The primates at Monkey World eat several times a day, with some snacks in between. On this morning's menu are figs. Boss man Paddy's got a sweet tooth, so he comes running when he gets wind of the snacks. But with so many figs to go round, even youngster Eddie has managed to get her mitts on some. There's a peaceful air in the troop as they settle down to enjoy their snack. And they show that there are many different ways to eat a fig. Some are delicate and careful, and others are just plain messy. The park encourages the primates to forage for food as they would in the wild. The figs are ideal for this as they're hard to find in the grass. Some will always win the prize, but for those who find it a little more difficult, it could lead to squabbles. In the enclosure next door, the bachelor boys have noticed that their neighbours are happily enjoying a treat, and they aren't. It's not long before figs start falling into their enclosure too, but the bachelors aren't quite as calm and peaceful as Paddy's group. As always, when it comes to food, Charlie can't contain his excitement. But he'd better watch out. High-ranking Jester is on the food prowl. Having to forage for the figs is confusing Charlie, giving Jester all the opportunity he needs. And once they've scored a fig, the bachelor boys aren't going to lose it to anyone. There's definitely enough fruit to go round, but Charlie's luck seems out today, as Jester hits the jackpot with more than his fair share. And Jester is not about to share, however much the other chimps want to. Could a classic bachelor boy squabble be brewing? Charlie is staying out of it and has given up on the figs, finding some leftovers from lunch instead. He settles on a platform on his own to enjoy the food. while down below, all hell breaks loose amongst the rest of the group over the figs. Over in Paddy's group, it's a very different story. They're clearly far more peaceful than the boisterous bachelors as they happily search for any figs they may have missed. Coming up, the team are shocked at some of the conditions in which they discover captive gibbons.
The cages are terrible and appalling, and the conditions with all of the noise and the workmen are just very upsetting for what is a canopy, quiet forest species.
And at the park, could cheeky orangutan Gordon actually be becoming a role model for Kai? In Vietnam, the Monkey World team is on a mission to find captive golden-cheeked gibbons that could join their new rescue centre. In the wild, gibbons swing freely through the forest canopy. But these critically endangered primates are often stolen from their native habitat and end up living in very different environments.
We've been getting reports from tourists, British tourists who come and visit Vietnam and are traveling around, and then they send us reports. So I had actually just gotten an email right before we came out on this trip from somebody saying that they had come on holiday and they had seen 3 gibbons outside a restaurant in Ho Chi Minh from London. Yeah, the tourists were from London. So we always follow up on all of the reports and all of the sightings.
The team's aim is to rescue gibbons that have been stolen from the wild and to rehabilitate them at the new Gibbon Rescue Centre. So first, they must make sure that these gibbons originate from this region.
So we'll see if we can get some hair samples. We'll test them, make sure that indeed they are southern Vietnamese gibbons, and that's the first step to getting them back to the rescue centre.
The team will have to work with the authorities to get the gibbons confiscated and taken to the new rescue centre. The Vietnamese government enforces strict laws to protect its wildlife, but previously, even when primates were confiscated, there was nowhere to put them. Until now.
Certainly all of the gibbons in southern Vietnam that people report to us will be going after now, because we have a brand new rescue centre on Tien Island who will be able to take these individuals, rehabilitate them, and hopefully put them back to the forest, because it's very likely that all 3 of these were poached from Cat Tien National Park.
In the wild, these primates live in a quiet forest environment, but these cages are on display in a restaurant which is under refurbishment, so the conditions are completely unsuitable for them.
But having said that, their eyes are clear. They're actually in pretty good nick. They're not too skinny. Their coats are good. They look overall pretty healthy to me. You're okay, mister. You're okay.
This is a good sign, which makes the gibbons ideal candidates for a new life at the rescue centre. Later on, the team discover a gibbon living as a pet, and they are shocked to find out how long she's been there.
Bao nhiêu năm ở đấy?
Nó là 24-25 năm rồi.
24 years, 21 năm.
Back at Monkey World, the afternoon is getting off to a tasty start. The orangutans are getting fresh browse. These are tree branches with the leaves still on them. Xiao Kuai is a real food lover, and she's quick off the mark, closely followed by thieving Gordon. Xiao Kuai's 2-year-old son, Kai, is right behind her. He's naturally curious and popular in the group, keeping his mum company while she eats her greens. It's Xiao Kuai's role to teach her infant how to behave, but in her haste to get through as much of the browse in as little time as possible, it looks like she's forgotten the lessons on how to share. Orangutans are the slowest movers of the great apes. But Kai doesn't seem to like this label. He is constantly exploring the enclosure. And just now, whilst his mum is preoccupied with not sharing her browse, Kai heads over to his pal Gordon in the hope that he might let him try a bit. But Gordon's not in the sharing mood either. Kai, however, is nothing if not tenacious. His mum has found some more browse, so he sneaks up to her. And with this much to go around, even she can't quibble over sharing a few leaves. In Vietnam, the Monkey World team continues its search to find captive gibbons stolen from the wild. Their aim is to bring them to the new rescue centre in Cat Tien National Park to teach them how to live in the wild again. They have reports of up to 10 wild-caught gibbons in the nearby area. One of these is female golden-cheeked gibbon Gwyn Lee. She was poached from the wild as a baby by this man and kept as a pet by his family.
Ăn đi, ăn ngon là ăn đi. Đây, Quyên Ly. Quyên Ly.
How long has the gibbon been inside the cage now?
Bao nhiêu năm ở đây? Bao nhiêu năm con vẫn ở đây?
Nó là 24, 25 năm rồi.
24 years, 24 năm.
24, 25 năm rồi.
It would be illegal if this family took the gibbon from the wild today, but over 20 years ago, the laws here were very different.
This gentleman was a soldier, and during that time he hunted and killed this gibbon's mother and has kept her as a pet since she was a baby, and she's lived with his family. So whether or not we could ever force the issue to say, you know, she must come to a centre or not, or whether that would even be the appropriate thing to do politically in the local area for this individual and to create bad feelings towards the whole project, it's hard to say. We'll have to consider that.
This pet gibbon is seen as part of the family. They even sing along with her.
Cái nữa. Nó đen xong rồi bây giờ nó...
It will be very difficult for the family to lose their beloved pet, but Alison really wants to improve the gibbon's future.
Would he like to see Gwyn Lee go back to the forest someday?
Someday, yeah.
He has talked about her future and whether or not it would be nice for her ever to go back to the forest, and he thinks it would be possible. So that's interesting that he's even considered that option, because she's been here for a long time with the family. She's part of the family, and you can see how they interact with her. She knows them quite well. But you can see that she is quite old. I mean, the feet are quite arthritic and the joints are sort of bent, and it isn't because they're broken, they're just old. And you can sort of see it in her face that she's old. Her teeth are perfect, but then, of course, she's being fed soft fruits and things, so she's in good condition, but older. Obviously, what would be best for her is to go back to the island and to be rehabilitated to whatever degree we think we could. But, you know, if in the end that's not possible, then maybe we can at least come back here and try and help them out to make her conditions better in this situation, because she is an old deer.
It's been a busy week for the team in Vietnam. But with the new Gibbon Rescue Centre project well underway, there's an even busier year to come. Back at Monkey World in Dorset, it's the end of the day, and in the orangutan enclosure, Xiao Kuai is taking a well-earned rest. Her son, Kai, was the park's first orangutan to be successfully raised by his mum, and he's settled in perfectly around the other adult orangutans. Like all boys, Kai loves nothing better than swinging about and playing. And his partner in crime, Gordon, feels the same way. These two are best buddies, and wherever you see Gordon, you'll find Kai. Just a few baby steps behind. In the wild, young orangs are more sociable than their elders and play in groups when they meet. They wrestle and chase each other and enjoy practicing acrobatic feats in the treetops. They learn their behaviour from their parents. When he was young, Gordon lacked a father figure until family man Twan arrived at the park. He may be as strong as several men, but Twan is a big softie, and the two of them hit it off. Just like Gordon, Kai also needs a role model, and it looks like Gordon's just the orang for the job. Gordon and Kai will probably not live with each other forever, as large males don't like each other's company. It's amazing to think that one day they will both look like Twan. Gordon's cheeks, known as flanges, are starting to develop, but orangs grow at a very slow rate, so hopefully there'll be many more years of play to come until Gordon and Kai have to be separated. And right now, life for these two doesn't get much better. Next time, it's a day of introductions as alpha male Hananya is reunited with an old flame. Will he and Patricia patch up their differences?
Hananya!
And from old flames to a new relationship. Zoe the gibbon meets Jake for the first time.
You never know what's going to happen with gibbon introductions. We'll just see how this one goes.
And there's exciting news as the park begins work on its biggest rescue ever. But a tough decision has to be made.
Now I'm confronted with the fact that there are 100 monkeys sitting in fairly barren lab cages, and I have to pick out 35.